look at the downside risk, really have a controlled approach to investing, because people think that entrepreneurs and successful people are high risk takers. It is the complete opposite. It is controlled downside. Then you look at the upside opportunity once you can control downside, because if there's uncontrollable downside risk, a smart investor or entrepreneur will not even entertain that. And I think that is my story / quote that I really want people to resonate with and start to change the narrative on entrepreneurship. It's not high risk. It's not irrational decisions.
Welcome to Get Invested on the Property Hub podcast channel, the leading weekly show for Australians who want to learn how to unlock their full self, health and wealth potential. I'm your host, Bushy Martin, and each week I go deep with the best investors, experts, leaders and founders to find out what it takes to break free from the grind, discover freedom and to live by design. Subscribe now and join me and get invested in the life that you really want. Let's get started.
Hi, freedom fighters. What's your true north? You know, that internal intuitive compass that guides you invisibly through life, whether you're actually aware of it or not. And if you haven't found your true north, how can you? And once you've found it, who do you need to become? And what do you need to do to achieve your version of success and freedom? Last week, we talked about the need to change your circles and your environment if you're serious about starting to move towards and achieving your life goals. Because, as our returning guest so eloquently puts it, there's no point holding on to the past if it's going to F up your future. It's that simple. So, as importantly, we need to change too. We have to become different people. Like Kane, I can guarantee you that I'm not who I was 10 years ago, let alone who I was 15 or 20 years ago, and not by a long shot. My way of thinking, my mindset, attitudes, expectations, actions and behaviours have all changed and keep evolving to enable me to achieve my version of freedom and sustainable success. And while we don't talk much about any of this, Kane and I have made some pretty big sacrifices and taken on big responsibilities in order to stay the course on the difficult path we've chosen to create and build our ideal lifestyles. So the cold hard truth is that if the person you are now isn't capable of achieving your desired definition of success, then that person needs to change. We're not saying you need to change who you are deep down, but you can adjust your attitude, your behaviour and the way you operate to have the best chance of attaining and then maintaining your lifestyle goals. So ask yourself, what am I trying to achieve? What sort of person do I need to be to achieve it? Because that's who you must become. As both Kane and I expand in our books Find Your True North and The Freedom Formula, the first step to achieving your lifestyle and supporting financial goals is to develop your vision. What's the life you want to create? What are you doing with who, where and when? What's your perfect day, week, month and year look like? Because it's hard to get to your destination if you just don't know where you're trying to go, right? And once you're clear on all of the key pillars of your overall vision, including your personal life, business or career, your relationships and health, you then need to tie them back to your underlying values and beliefs, which is critically important as they're fundamental and foundational. Because if you're not aware of your intrinsic values and you don't consistently act in alignment with them, you're going to keep sabotaging and shipwrecking yourself without understanding why. Now, I can't stress enough how important this is, because your vision and goals are like your head, while your underlying values are your heart. And if you're not acting in accordance with your heart, you'll never achieve sustainable success. Yes, you may enjoy a few brief wins and a bit of overnight success, but it'll never be sustainable long term. So let me ask you, do you know what your personal values are? Can you clearly communicate them? If not, then you're going to undermine your future success right from the get-go. Now, as a quick example, my personal core values are actually summed up with the acronym that revolves around the word humility, which is actually my most respected but least seen trait that captures the qualities of being unpretentious, respectful and unassuming. And I dedicate an entire chapter in my book, The Freedom Formula, to helping you uncover your core values and your why, which I think is the most important thing that you need to do. And don't skip it, because if you do, you'll pay the price down the track. So what are your core values? Now, there's no right or wrong answer with this. You may have a handful of non-negotiable values or a lot of things that are fundamental to you, and you don't necessarily have to sum them up in a handy acronym like I do. It is, however, critically important to stop and crystallize what's important to you and what subliminally guides you, so you can measure your choices, decisions, and options against them so that they're aligned with your personal integrity, which in turn affects your level of self-esteem and belief. From personal experience, I can share with you that if you're not doing things in alignment with your fundamental values and core beliefs, this continuous compromise will eat at your subconscious and hamstring your progress in all aspects of your life. Conversely, if your actions and associations are aligned, magic can happen exponentially. So if you're not clear on your values and you'd like some help with this, feel free to book in with me for a personal solution session by clicking the link in the show notes, and I look forward to talking to you soon on this or any other property financial strategy challenges that you might be experiencing. Because your values will be your subconscious compass or your GPS for your life journey as your true north to ensure that you stay true to who you are and who you want to become. And as we all know, money is not the prize or the answer, but merely the fuel. And money often changes people, and often not for the better, because it's a volume switch to our underlying character that emanates from our core values. So once you've uncovered your values, which are your subconscious magnets and compass that attracts and invisibly guides your life experience, and you start honouring and living in accordance with them, you can then link them to your vision and break it down into goals and identify the steps required to reach them. Now, this sounds pretty simple, right? Because it's both holistic and logical. And it is simple, but it's not easy to follow through and then stay the course. So you need to get clear on your values, beliefs, vision and goals and the necessary steps so that you can then dive into learning the practical finance and investment skills that you'll use to create the money fuel that's going to make all of this happen. As Kane and I both reinforced, the main point we want to make here is that gaining clarity around your values and vision is fundamental and mission critical to your success. Because if you're really serious about changing yourself, your situation and the world around you, you must be 100% clear on your values and your beliefs, as together they become your true North Star. Now, I started last week's episode by asking you if you're stuck, but the reality is you're not stuck. You're not stuck in your environment, in your circle, in your job, in your mindset. Whatever's holding you back, you're not stuck. It may feel like you're stuck, but you're not. In your mind, you may feel stuck for a long time, stuck in your environment you've grown up in, stuck with the crew you're hanging out with, stuck with the fate that you think that you deserve. But it won't be until you take that massive step to unstick yourself by incrementally changing your thinking, behaviours and habits over time and moving to a new environment that you realise that you're not as stuck as you think you are. Now, you may not realise it yet or believe it, in fact, but you have all the freedom and choice in the world at your fingertips. Sure, you may be broke, in debt, feel trapped in your current situation and not have the right qualifications, but you're still free to try to better your situation if you're prepared to back yourself and take action and follow Kane's courageous example that he walked us through last week. Because there comes a point when you can no longer blame the system, your parents or anything else but yourself for where you're at. It's a tough reality to accept, but it's actually the cold, hard truth. Now, you can't change the past, but once you become aware of the negative influences in your life, you can take ownership of your future. You can take responsibility, what you do, and where you go next. Your past and your past conditioning don't have to rule you for the rest of your life or become your excuse. You can decide right now to say, I choose not to live a life of suffering anymore. The suffering doesn't need to continue, but you must decide you're going to change and then take action each and every day to make that change as you find and then live your true north. So if you're serious and ready to do the never-ending work required to change yourself and your circumstance in order to live your ideal lifestyle, then you're going to love the inspiration that Kane Hansen is going to give you today as he unpacks his recently released book, Find Your True North. As you'll remember from last week, Kane's a financial planner advisor, a business owner, entrepreneur, and a big proponent of giving back. As the founding advisor of True North Lifestyle, he helps you and others from all walks of life to take control of your finances by focusing on smart money management to create financial freedom and then build your dream life. He believes that everyone should have the opportunity to develop strong financial literacy, so to help you and others master your finances, he's created the True North Academy, an education platform that teaches you everything from basic budgeting right through to playing the money game and winning. So I'm really looking forward to unpacking your great new book. So welcome back and let's get invested again, Kat.
Thanks, Bushy. Thanks for having me back, mate. It's good to see you again.
More great inspiration from your book in the intro there, mate. Again, I love the way you walk the talk as well. So you inspire us, but it's all related to the hurdles that you've jumped on your journey to where you're at. Let's jump straight into the book. Find your north and talk to us a little bit about why did you write it? What are the key messages that you see it, and who's the best suited for it?
Why did I write it? I've been asked this before, so I know this answer. But look, even though I wrote the script you said before, the way you speak it sounds a lot better. I love the way you speak it and the voice, and I'm even thinking about doing audio books. I might have found someone to collaborate with, Bushy. But why did I write the book? If you listen to last week's episode, books were a massive change in my initial part of my journey. And the reason being is I could pick up a book from Warren Buffett, one of the best stock investors or investors in general globally, for $27.95 down at the local bookstore. Now you can actually jump on Amazon and get it dropped to your door in 3 days, printed and on demand, right? But for less than $30 Australian, you can get access to the minds of some of the best entrepreneurs, investors in the world. It's a one-way dialogue. I get it. It's not a back and forward dialogue where you might get an interactive session, for example, say with you, Bushy, or with me, where someone's got to sit down and understand your personal needs and goals to give you the most specific direction. But for a low-cost entry, starting out, books are an amazing tool. And because it just gave so much to me in my journey, I wanted to give back my story. And I really wanted to highlight in the story that I'm just an average Joe or an average Kane, another Australian, had a few ups and downs, went through some adversities. I made bad decisions. I made bad investments. I got knocked down a few times, but I persevered. I kept my ethical compass aligned to my true north, my vision with, financially what I wanted to build, and I pursued and it's paid off. And through hard work and consistency, and I wanted to relay that message and share it through storytelling. And that's why I wrote the book, and I want to inspire at least one other person. And, all the proceeds are going back to, at this point, to charities. We're donating all of it. I was going to donate all the profit. It was too hard to calculate, so I just said, stuff it. Let's just give all the proceeds back and donate the money. So, it's all about giving back for me and sharing my story, so hopefully someone else can make change like I did.
Love that. The quick, I guess, Kane, what are the key messages in the book that you want people to take on board and take some action on?
Yeah, so it's a slogan that we use with True North Lifestyle is about creating a life on your terms. And the key word is your terms, not society's, not the condition of your parents, not your friends. It's your terms. What do you want to create? If that's an $80,000 passive income a year so you can travel the world on a low-cost budget with a friend or a partner or children, is it going out and dominating and making seven-figure profit businesses and scaling something massive and employing hundreds of people and having a legacy? And it's everything from the top end to the bottom end of understanding what you want to really create, giving people the motivation, the skills and mindset and the disciplines and behaviors that I needed to learn to change my life that maybe they could instill for change, but also motivating people to show that it's possible. What I noticed from books in the beginning was, hey, if this person can do it, this person's done change, this person's created what people will say is not the possible, it is the impossible, and they defied the status quo. And that's what I love. I love seeing the underdog story, the disruptive markets or the disruptive person coming and saying, no, I think I can do this. I just really want to see that brought out in people, in the best way, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love that. A big takeaway from me in the book is the need for personal accountability. It's something I've always believed in, I guess. What are your views on personal choices and responsibility in that context?
We all need to take more accountability. We all need to do more of it. It's an ego thing, right? no one wants to accept their mistakes or shortcomings, but I think it's a reality that to grow, that you need to make and do the hard decisions, make hard decisions and do the things that are hard. And sometimes that's stepping back and saying, all the decisions I make today will be a byproduct of the reality I live tomorrow. And there's no one to blame. And it's easy to blame. It's hard to accept that there's no one else to blame. And I talk about this in the book. I played the victim mode. I went through the, single parent, single mother upbringing. The low income was the problem. I didn't have my father around. Then it was the school system didn't have the resources to support me. So that's why I went off the straight and narrow, and then ended up in Boys Town, and then no one would give me the right job, and I started hanging out with the wrong people, and that's why I can't get a good job. But society failed me. And the reality is we live in the glass half full country of Australia. It's still one of the best countries in the world. And we can bag out the social security system, and we can bag out the government. But I tell you what, there's 80% of the world's countries are a lot worse, right? So stepping back and saying, and I realized this as a young man when I hit, between like 19, 20, 21, I can sit there and hold on to my past and the story and let it dictate my future and be stuck in potentially the same situation I am 10 years later. Or I can start to take accountability, step back and say, well, now it's on me moving forward. What am I got to do about it? Let's let go of the past and just see what we can create with the rest of my life, because the story's not over. And you write each chapter on your terms. And it's just, it starts with accountability, right? Accepting.
100%. Love that. Another theme that I think is pretty strong in both your own personal example and keeps coming through is the importance of self-discipline. And there's a great section in the book on your self-discipline blueprint. Can you sort of, going to put you on the spot now, but take us through the key elements of that, Kane?
Oh, discipline. Discipline is doing the things you don't want to do, right?
Yeah.
So, and there's a part of us, there's obviously a part of us, it's human nature. You sit on the couch at night and you think, oh, geez, I've got that chocolate bar in the cupboard. And willpower gets to a point where willpower does deplete. Willpower is only limited. If you put someone in an environment where they're constantly testing their willpower, you have a higher chance of failure or going for the chocolate bar when you're meant to be on the diet. But prior preparation and structure help with discipline. It's setting that alarm and the snooze button the night before. It's not having the food you don't want to eat in the fridge. It's about creating the right environment and structure to build good habits, and taking a step forward. And then if you consistently do those habits, the brain will actually zip file that memory, cognitive or thought pattern, zip files it and stores it as an automated response. And you start to build those into your psyche or consciousness, essentially, or subconscious, I suppose you should say. But it's just building that. And there's studies that say it could be anywhere from 66 days of doing something will turn it from a routine into an official habit. Some say 180 days. But look, what we all can agree on, it's the consistency. If you have one bad day, don't let it throw you off. If you get 6 days out of 7, hey, if you do 1 day out of 7, it's better than doing none. We need to have a positive feedback loop internally. But it's just having those, my blueprint for discipline is, just setting some goals, having some structure, building healthy behaviors, healthy thinking, healthy relationships, just doing things, right? Even it's like, I'm going to read. If you've never read before and people are like, oh, I don't know where to start, it's pick up a book and read 10 pages a day. I've seen a lot of people going viral at the moment with that 75 Hard. Have you seen that? Andy Frisella talks about it. It's 10 pages a day, drinking water, 2 forms of exercise. It's just building habits, right? It's creating a new routines that have got to push you towards a better future. Once again, what is that future that you're trying to create? What's the plan? What's the outcome? Okay, what routines can I do to move me forward? And then rinse and repeat. And it can be a little bit monotonous and boring, but that's where the results come from.
100%. Good investment is boring. Kane, I did a episode some time ago that demonstrated and proved that the best investors are actually dead. because they get in and they don't muck with it. They don't play with it. They don't let their emotions begin and make knee-jerk reactive decisions for something that, if the quality of the asset's good enough and their timeline's long enough, then they're going to do very well. And you talk again about the importance of mindset, and there's a great section in the book where you talk about your mindset GPS, which I think is a really good analogy. Can you break down what that GPS means in terms of mindset for us?
Yeah, it's like if you these days you don't really have a GPS, it's all on the phone, right? But if you just have a tracking system of any form and you put in your destination, one, you know exactly where your destination is. And then when you actually go on your phone, if you use an Android or an iPhone, it says, okay, are you taking foot? Are you walking? Are you on public transport, which could be train or bus? Are you on a bicycle, or you're on a car or a motorbike? Right? And this is the same as the outcome. If you've got an outcome or a destination or GPS, one, you're not looking at going anywhere else. Someone comes along and says, hey, do you want to go to this other beach? It's like, no, I'm going to this beach. It's 45 minutes away. There's another beach at 53, but that gets busy. There's no parking. Hey, there's another beach at 32 minutes away. Yeah, but they've got too many waves and it's not going to be good. Gets rough. I want like a calm sort of ocean, right? So you pick your destination. You're clear on, I'm not going to be distracted by the other beaches or outcomes or destinations. But then to put that into context too, there's also what vehicle now do we use? You might start out, hey, I've got to go by foot and I've got to use public transport. It's got to be slower to get to the beach. But as time goes on, you can use different vehicles to get you there faster, which is using a bike. You can use car. Sometimes we used to go by boat overseas. Take you 3 weeks to get to Europe. Now you can fly there, 24 hours roughly on average. So it's just having that GPS to be clear on the destination, not be distracted by other outcomes, and what vehicle you got to use to get you there faster.
Yeah, I love the way you break down the book. You break GPS down into G for growth, P for purpose, and S for social, being strong social connections, because that pretty much encompasses all the key things that we've been talking about there. Just in relation to the investment piece, Kane, you sort of touch on some of the loopholes, tips and tricks that everyday Aussies can actually utilise to improve their financial position. You want to share some of the obvious ones with us, and particularly the ones that most Aussies tend to ignore or don't know what they don't know, therefore miss out?
Tips and trips for Australians.
Yeah,
I have to give you a general disclaimer here.
Oh, 100%. And
yeah.
Talking principles, not specific advice. This is just some of the general principles. Because a lot of Aussies jump into investment, I think, a bit half-assed, because it's that impatient thing that drives it again. But if you sit back and look at some of the key fundamentals of any investment class, are there any that up that are bits of standouts that Aussies miss out on?
Yeah. One I've been hearing a lot of, because obviously there's a cost of living crisis at the time of doing this podcast. Interest rates, at a sort of high point in many years, not historical highs, but they're definitely at a high point based on property values compared to the interest rate. You hear people that have had property in the 80s tell you that it was harder when they were 16, 17%, but the property value was different, right? So different ratios, but very similar cost of living crisis that we're facing at the moment. And there are so many people that don't run a budget. Like I don't understand how you cannot run a budget. I don't care if you're earning $500,000 a year or more, or you're earning $50,000 a year. You need to know your budget, and not because you need to track and live off bread and water. You need to have an allocated amount for spending. You need to have an allocated amount for your responsibilities. You need to have an allocated amount for investing, leisure, whatever it is. And you have those buckets, or I call it conscious saving, conscious spending. And it means if you start to earn money on 50,000, you don't have a budget. When you jump to 80, you're easily got to go and just start spending that extra 30 you made. Obviously, minus tax, it's probably less than 30 in your pocket, but you're going to spend that money quite easily. So I think, but above all, I can give you the best strategy. I can give you the tax structures. I can give you different trust fund structures or investment bucket companies, and give you the most sexy, complex structure. But if you're not budgeting, my projection will not get to the outcome that I've demonstrated with all the variables if those, and this comes back to discipline and behaviors, right? If you have a good spending behavior discipline, and I encourage clients to put in their personal spending, put in your haircuts. If your partner, goes and gets beauty things done or pedicures, put it in. I put in a weekly allowance for myself. If I want to buy a snowboard or a new surfboard, I've got to build that allowance up, and I can spend that on what I want, and my partner has her own. And that's an allowance in our budget. We've got a social eating out allowance. Like it's meant to be a fun budget. We've got all their holidays in there. Yeah. If we have a $10,000 holiday budget, hey, do we want one big holiday, or do we want to go camping twice and maybe do a cheap overseas and we get 3 holidays out of that budget? Yeah. Right? So the structure and the planning around the budget really helps.
And there's so many easily accessible tools out there that are free that can, most decent banks will break down what you're spending into budget items. So you've got a really quick and easy identification of what you're currently spending. And then there's some really simple, easy to use budget tools out there now that cost you zero. But you have to have the discipline, as we keep talking about, to actually keep an eye on that. And then it ain't sexy, it ain't rocket science. But if you stick to the knitting and you keep doing it with consistency, if you set that up so you've got savings and investments that flow out of that budget, then it all gets very easy down the track. So love that. One thing I'd love to expand a little bit too, given the great initiative that you've established with the True North Academy, tell us a bit about why you created it, how it works, and who's best suited to take advantage of that too.
Yeah. So we're finding now with the Royal Commission in 2017 really drove up the cost of financial planning advice in a time where more Australians need personalised advice than ever. We've got a big generation of the baby boomers transitioning to retirement. We've got their parents that are at the end of life where there's a massive transition of wealth through inheritance. And there's just not the right advice around. But all that red tape they had to bring in, they had to raise the standards of financial planning. They had to clean things up, which have done really well, but it's driven the cost up. Same with the building industry. Brought in all the red tape to stop all the insurance warranty issues that have happened with the buildings going up too fast. It's just pushed the cost of building up, right? And it's the pendulum swinging too far. And we're sitting back and we're noticing that there's more Australians like myself, like my mother, single mother, that needed the help more than ever, didn't have the money to afford one-on-one advice. But at some point, if you help those people in the beginning or in the mid-journey that are progressing to potentially those clients, they one day will get there if they get the right advice. But there was a gap. There was no education. And then I found that we wanted to give an unbiased view to all the information and the insights to how a financial plan would assess your strategy, how they would assess your budget, how it would actually assess your loan, different loan structures, explaining the variables, looking at property as an asset class. How does property work from borrowing? How does lender's mortgage insurance work? Loan to value, how do you borrow against equity? Then we went into shares, ETFs, direct shares, what dividends are. We went into a risk profile, how to do asset allocation or having a risk profile diversification, and then using the budget and all that knowledge to say, well, then how do you apply it to a savings or investment plan? And then we show you a tax strategy of using deductible debt and non-deductible debt. There's also debt consolidation, but they're all unbiased. There's no specific, this is the key thing. It's just a very generalized education that would educate our clients on. And then I explain how I would actually research things. We give research tools, calculators, requirements of what to look for, not what to look for and what to look out for.
Yep.
And it goes all the way through to estate planning and life insurance, which is towards the end where they're important plan B things. But it's just meant to give a generalized, what we call financial foundations. There's a workbook for revision, goal setting in there, documenting your learnings, and then you can share that with a community because there's a massive middle class, lower class that need to start out and they need that first step. And we're hoping that it's got to give those people the first foundation to then go, oh, I didn't know property could do this. Oh, I didn't know shares could do that. And then you've got more information to make an informed step of what you want to put into the vehicle that will get you to that destination, which is your true north or your plan.
Love it. Pretty exciting stuff. And there is a massive gap in the equation there, which we could talk about. But I'd love to talk a lot further about, we've only just scratched the surface today, but before I jump into the second round of the ambush, what are the key takeaways to finding our true north and enjoying our ideal lifestyle as you see it, Kane?
Key takeaways from the book?
Yeah.
Say?
Yeah, in terms of finding our true north.
Key takeaways. There's an old saying that comes to mind. It's like, shoot for the stars. No, shoot for the moon if you miss your land amongst the stars.
Yeah.
And the key takeaways to finding your own true north, it's a personalised journey. We're all on this planet for a limited time. We're all headed to the same destination. There's you can't get out of here alive. None of us are, right? So it's a journey of finding that balance. And there are a lot of people that are trying to chase wealth, trying to chase success. And I talk about this in my book. I had immense success in my late 20s, very fast through being poached from an internship. If you've ever seen the movie The Pursuit of Happiness, it was very similar to The Pursuit of Happiness, being poached as this outlier with no education. I was like the underdog in the program. People laughed at me. I couldn't even use Excel spreadsheets. I didn't even know what Outlook was coming from a mining town, but I had to find my true north, right, in that process. And I had immense amount of success in a large practice really quickly. And I realized that there was more than money. And then beyond that, even creating True North Lifestyle and our True North Academy, I'm a big advocate for giving back and I contribute a lot. And I've been on the board of Boys Town, and I think you got to find more things that bring us fulfillment beyond money. And that's my key takeaway in this journey. Use money. Don't let it use you. Money will bring out the good in you. Money will bring out the bad in people. Will show your true colors. And just don't get caught up in that journey. Just remember the family, friends, and those that were there for you and will be there for you along that journey.
Love it. Jump straight into the ambush round where I give you the blindfold and the cigarette now, Kane. And to kick that off, what's your favourite quote and why?
Oh, favourite quote. I mentioned one last week, which is if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, is essentially, I think, the quote is. Wouldn't be a quote, if you don't mind me sort of going on a different sort of tangent with this, but it's the Richard Branson story, right? And I'm a big believer, and I've mentioned this in the last week, with the asymmetrical risk. And I want all the listeners to really take this in. And you've got some of the best investors in the world, like Ray Dalio, had Bridgewater, I think his hedge fund was the largest hedge fund in the world. There's a big thing about asymmetrical risk. And Richard Branson, I believe when he started Virgin Atlantic, there might be a few details that aren't 100% accurate, but the concept was when he started Virgin Atlantic, everyone thinks Richard Branson's an entrepreneur, which he is, and he's a big risk taker, and entrepreneurs take risk, and that's what you need to do to succeed. And if you look at Richard Branson's story about Virgin Atlantic, he agreed, I think, with Boeing at the time for a few $1 billion of aircraft under a lease, and he took on that lease in the agreement that if Virgin Atlantic doesn't become successful, I'm going to shut down the company and I hand back all the aircraft of not $1 owing or no deficit of the business owing money to Boeing. So if you look at that deal, it was a $1 billion upside business model with zero risk on the downside besides his time. And that's like one of the biggest quotes I share with people that want to go out and find the next crypto ICO that's got a boom, or the next IPO share, or the next big ticket thing, is look at the downside risk. Really have a controlled approach to investing, because people think that entrepreneurs and successful people are high risk takers. It is the complete opposite. It is controlled downside. Then you look at the upside opportunity once you can control downside, because if there's uncontrollable downside risk, a smart investor or entrepreneur will not even entertain that. And I think that is my story / quote that I really want people to resonate with and start to change the narrative on entrepreneurship. It's not high risk. It's not irrational decisions. There is a bit of winging it on the job when you're learning, obviously, but there's a sensible approach to doing it.
But if you plan for the worst and expect the best, and you've already encompassed the downside risk, then the upside reward is the bonus, because you're not putting yourself in a situation where you're going to be out of the game. So I love that. Now, on the literary field, apart from your book and the Rich Dad Poor Dad that we spoke about last week, what's the other top book that you'd recommend we read and why?
Oh, there's so many. My book. Besides that, there's a bit of a bias there, everyone. So I obviously like my own book. And Bushy actually narrates it really well. So it even makes it sound better. I was listening to it just thinking, wow. There was things in there where I was just like, even though you write it, there's just things that just come in the mind. I was like, you have to get in the zone. And thinking it took me over 2.5 years of back and forward of writing it. And it's interesting to think about. Great book. All right. So depends where you're at. So every time I've read a book, I was at a different stage. There's books like, Ray Dalio, The Principles. He's got a few more books now. If you're in sort of a path of trying to understand good fundamentals to life, that's good. The one really good book, if you're looking to get into some form of investing, there was one that I loved for years called Top 100 Stocks. Yep. Martin Royth, the name is. He's had like 30 editions over 30 years. It is very black and white. He assesses the top 100 shares he thinks will be good in the next year. So let's 2025 will come out in maybe 3 or 4 months. And he has an analysis and a fundamental approach that have to fit a criteria to be in the book. So there's a lot of stocks that are outside that. But if you just want simple analysis where he explains the different financials of a stock that he assesses, and he gives the explanation of how he looks at price to earning, debt for a company, the dividend yield, and explains things like that in the book. And I used to go through that book in the mines, and I'd flick through and pick about 4 or 5 different sectors I really liked or description of the companies, and I'll just incrementally invest in those over the next year, those 5 stocks. And I'd work out my budget and go, okay, I can afford $2,000 a month. I'm going to allocate that across 5 stocks. Every month I bought into those stocks. And then next year I'd read the book and then I'd add a few more. But he doesn't give you recommendations, but he gives you a really good understanding of stocks. And that's obviously if you're looking at getting into the share market. But yeah, I found those as a good couple of good key books.
Yeah, great suggestions. Last one of these, if you could wave a magic wand and change anything, Kane, what will you change about money and investment?
There's a lot of things I'd change about money. I could sit here and try and rewrite history and save. There was less capitalism, and there was more profit for good and more profit to benefit the human race, and we put more money back into the right health system and education, and all the areas were under-resourced and underpaid. But that's what I'd really like to see, everyone contributing for good to provide a better society. But unfortunately, it's not. There's a big skewed difference from the upper class, middle class, and lower class. I'd like to see people informed better before they leave school. I'd like to see more curriculum in school around unbiased education, around compounding interest, what credit card debt is, what tax deductible debt is, explaining to people. We train people in school to go out and become employees, but then we don't tell them about the tax system, because once you become an employee, you're in the tax system as a marginal tax rate individual. We also don't explain superannuation, the 2 key things that come with your first job. Fill out the tax declaration form, fill out your choice of super fund form, and there's no introduction to that. And if I could wave a wand, I'd really like to see people get the basics before they're let loose into society. And as a parent, this scares me more now with my young child or children to come, is, once they're 18, you can only protect them so much. And as soon as they're 18, they can go and sign on a credit card, sign on to a loan, sign on to these short-term loans like Afterpay, and can do some serious damage without being equipped with the knowledge.
Yeah.
And I'd love to see that. We can't change history, which would be my first preference. Let's try and equip the young Australians with better information to just try and make better decisions for their future.
Yeah, great thoughts. Last question before we get into the wrap. If I ask you to get invested, what does that mean to you, Kate?
Get invested? I think get invested into yourself. Self first. Get invested. But into what? I'm investing in myself. Books help me invest in myself. Invest into your mental health invest into your physical health, because a strong mind, strong body is got to help you sort of navigate through life, because there's a lot of shit that's got to hit you. Sorry for a derogative term. But when you go through life and the older you get, you start to realize there's more stuff you have to endure, and life's not going to be easy for anyone. Like I said, we're all headed to the same outcome at the end. We're all headed for one destination. But as you get older, unfortunately, you'll see more people get sick, and you'll see people get dying, and if it's parents or older family or friends, so just get invested in yourself, look after yourself, look after your internal world, and I think that will sort itself out with the external world, and help with the narrative of the education and everything you need to do from there. But I think we discussed this before. If your internal world's not healthy and right, it doesn't matter what you do. And there's so many unhappy millionaires and billionaires in the world. There's so much data on it. There's no correlation. They've done the research. I think for once you get an average cost of living and average income for covering a standards of living, there's no correlation to increase happiness. So I think you just need to invest in yourself first.
Beautifully said. Now, for those like myself who really resonated with what we talked about today, we're going to have all of your links in the show notes for those who connect with you further. But as we discussed pre-coming on air, you're offering a special gift for Get Invested listeners, or a challenge more to the point, by giving away a free copy of your book, Find True North, which you can actually get on your website, which is kanehansen.com.au /product/Find Your True North. And again, we'll have that in the show notes as well. So we're challenging everyone to sending an email, and you're very generously going to give the best email, just one of them. So email us at hello, HELLO, at knowhowproperty.com.au, and summarise your biggest takeaway from our great discussions with Kane on how to find your true north. Any further thoughts on that before we close, Kane?
Yeah, like I said, we've got to do a giveaway, and I'll give a signed copy of a book. We've also got a goals journal I'll chuck in for one reader, or for one reader that's listening on the podcast, but also everyone that takes action and the courage to actually reach out and share their insights and do something. We also will try and give away a digital copy of the goals journal, so you can just download that. It's PDF editable. Just to help everyone else out. You can print it yourself, but one lucky viewer will get the signed copy, and the physical copies posted out to them.
Beautiful. Very generous. Look, Kane, I really want to thank you again for taking the time to inspire and educate us on how to find our true north, so we can live our ideal lifestyles and enjoy our versions of sustainable success and financial freedom over the last 2 episodes. And I actually personally look forward to keeping the conversation going. But before we close, if anyone watching or listening would like to explore how property can help you to live your true north by freeing up your time and creating an income for life, whether you're new to the game or an experienced investor or a property player, feel free to explore your why, what and how of successful property that unpacks my 4 decades of property and life experience by tapping into our recently released Freedom Formula program. You can enjoy anytime, anywhere at your leisure by clicking the link in the show notes now, or going to bushymartin.com.au /Freedom Formula course. And to continue our great conversations with other like-minded investors and learn in a safe, sound and supporting environment where you can ask any question and get answers without any of the BS, in a place where you'll never be sold to or pressured to do anything, join us in our Property Hub Collective interactive Facebook community by clicking the link in the show notes. And that brings us to the end of another great conversation. So thanks again for getting invested, and let's keep the conversation going, Kane.
Thanks, Bushy. Thanks, guys, everyone, for listening. Hope to hear from some of you soon. Take care.
Thanks for tuning in to Get Invested on the Property Hub podcast channel, your home for property investment insights and inspiration. Make sure you subscribe to Property Hub for free. Get your weekly dose of Get Invested inspiration, along with every episode of Realty Talk, Australia's top online property show for red-hot property investing news and insights direct from industry leaders and influencers. And finally, I'll see you next time.